So in previous lecture of the practical work, we have come across purification techniques, and you have seen the steps which are involved in the characterization of a compound. So in this scenario, we can have a few sessions practical work if you are interested. So the university is giving a provision so we can get this managed. So if you are coming on one day, but we cannot have all of you one day. So maybe a few are working in one day, and next week 15 to 20 other students are working. So we shall let you know the schedule if possible. So you have seen there are certain methodologies that without going to lab you can work. First, looking at your reaction, either this is doable or not. If its delta G value is negative, Gibbs free energy is negative, then this reaction is doable. This is the first aspect you can do. You have done, those who have studied with me in the previous semester about organic chemistry uh, 2. So I have explained this, how to calculate this, and some students has calculated the values of delta G value during a reaction. If this is value is negative, the reaction is straightforward. We can do it very easily. It is doable. But if it is not doable, then we have only one parameter in hand, variable, that is temperature. So it means we need to carry out the reaction at higher temperature. Maybe this become delta G value became minus or negative at high temperature. So this is, we have to see at what temperature this reaction is doable, because some reaction you see we do at -degree Celsius. Some reaction we do at room temperature. Some reaction we do at elevated temperature. So why we do so? Because all reaction have different delta G values. So more it negative, more reaction shall be forward, and forming the product, or the reaction
Excuse
rate shall be
me,
faster.
आवाज
Yes.
आपकी क्लियर नहीं आ रही.
Yes, what is the issue? Hello. What is the issue?
सर उनका अपना कनेक्शन इशू है, इस वजह से शायद उनको आवाज़ नहीं जा रही.
All right. So second aspect that you have come across in previous is planning a chemical reaction. Once you are planning a chemical reaction, I presented that there are three entities. One is substrate, one is a reagent, one is a catalyst. In all reaction doesn't involve all these three. Some of the reaction may involve all these three. Some of them may involve no catalyst. Some of them may involve just substrate even. Only one reactant. So mostly pericyclic reactions, especially electrocyclization and sigmatropic reactions. All of these are basically dependent upon only one substrate, no reagent, no catalyst. So this is something which is very important to understand. And how many reagents we have, first thing. Second, what is the amount of that we are going to take? This is normally we take substrate as one equivalent, and the reagents slightly more than that, 10% extra, mean 1.1 equivalent normally. And catalyst we needed very small amount, zero point 0.1 mole or zero point 0.1 equivalent, or even less than that if it is expensive catalyst. So this is how we perform our plan our calculations. So all these two steps you can easily do while sitting on a table. You don't need to go to the lab, right? So we shall have a practice of that later. Third step is starting a chemical reaction, doing a reaction in a proper sequence. So whenever sometime we need to create a reagent in situ. In situ mean in the flask. For example, some of the strong bases we need to generate, but we generate this first. Then we add anything that we react with base. So drop-wise addition, so that slowly it should react with it. And then we have generated something, then we add over substrate. So this is something, let's say we have added something, like say you are doing enolization, you are doing a substitution on a carbon atom next to carbonyl. So how it is being done? First we generate an enolate. How enolate is generated? Enolate is generated by the reaction of a strong base. What is a strong base? LDA, lithium diisopropylamide, is a strong base that we use. So for enolization, then we react with electrophile. So our substrate is first reacted with a strong base. How strong base LDA is produced? It is reacted by the reaction of N-butyl lithium with diisopropylamine. So we first take diisopropylamine in at minus 78 degrees Celsius. Then we add N-butyl lithium dropwise. Once it adds, it generates LDA. This LDA, then we add to this our substrate. So then it picks up an enolic proton and generate enolate. So this is what is going on stepwise. So what sequence we are going to do, which entity we are going to add first, and then we are adding the other. There is a sequence. This is called reaction. How we are performing are adding the entities, reagents and catalyst and substrate. In what sequence? And we monitor the reaction with the passage of time. So when the substrate disappear on TLC, so we stop the reaction. This is the fourth step we are going. And once the reaction is monitored and the substrate disappears on TLC, so it means the reaction is over. So definitely, because we have used the reagent more than the substrate, it shall appear on TLC. And catalyst, because it regenerates 100% in the end, it shall also be present on the TLC. So catalyst and reagent shall be present on TLC, but our substrate shall disappear. Once this is disappeared, the reaction is over. Fifth step is to quench the reaction. I presented the method how to quench the reaction. If we are doing a reaction in acidic pH, we add a base to this. If it is done in base, we add an acid to this. If we are doing a reaction in anhydrous condition, so we add water to that. So whatsoever is the opposite of a reaction we are doing, we add the opposite of that. Acidic medium, we add base. We are doing reaction in basic medium, we add acid. If we are doing reaction in anhydrous condition, we add water to that, etc. This is called quenching of a reaction, to stop a reaction. Next procedure, number 6 procedure, is basically the isolation of the isolation. Now we are going to separate our product. Now how we do this? We partition do. Here no concept develops the purification, because we have unreactant reagent present, catalyst present, product present. Although reactant disappears, the substrate disappeared, but two other things are still present inside. So how to separate these entities? How to separate our final product from reagent and catalyst? So this is the objective for which we use purification techniques. Sometimes we have our product form and the concentration of reagent and catalyst is small. So if our compound final product, if that is existing in a crystalline state, we can separate that. Maybe it is getting insoluble in the solvent, we are doing a reaction, so it precipitates out. This is the first technique that you have come across already in previous lecture, mean filtration. So we carry out the filtration. The product is, the reactant is soluble in reaction, but when it is done in a reaction flask, so the product once formed, it forms precipitate. It is mean it is insoluble in that solvent. So for example, if we are doing a reaction of amines with aldehydes, both we take in methanol. Once they are reacting with each other, what they form? When the amines and aldehyde, they are soluble in methanol. But once they react with each other, they form imines, carbon-nitrogen double bond, commonly called Schiff base. Schiff base is insoluble in methanol. So what happens? It precipitates out. So what is the advantage? Because we are doing this reaction in methanol, unreacted amine is more in concentration. So when we filter it, so unreacted solvent is present there, which contain amine, unreacted amine. Because aldehyde is over substrate, it has been converted. So what we do, we give methanol washing to this. When we wash this, but it should be chilled methanol, mean cold methanol, in which solubility of other should be lower. Amines are soluble, so it shall solubilize, but imine shall not react with that. It shall not be soluble in that. So this is called washing. We are getting remove our impurity. Now these precipitates are the precipitates of product. So luckily, we are very lucky enough that we have separated. If our product precipitates out, this is the best way of separation. We don't need to separate, just filtration is going on. A solid is in suspended form, so we just get it filter out. This is what we can do very easily. All right. So this is the one method of purification, but it is not applicable to all reaction. If let's say our final product and reactant, they are soluble in all forms, just get hold on. जी अस्सलाम वालेकुम जनाब क्या हाल है Right. So this is the one of the possibility. Everybody listening me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this is the one of the, if you are very lucky enough that your reactant is soluble in a solvent and product is not soluble in that solvent. So what do you do? So precipitation takes place. So in the end of reaction, when the solution doesn't contain any reactant present in it, mean our substrate, what we perform is we separate them. Separate by filtration. So filtration you are already familiar with, but in some cases, this filtration, these precipitates structs over the filter paper and very poor filtration takes place. So what we do is we have a modification in that. There is a, I think there is no diagram present here. I try to see. All right. If you can see this diagram, let me get this larger. If you look at this flask, this is called Buchner funnel. This is a Buchner's funnel. This is the name of a scientist who first developed this. It contains pores in it. So we add a filter paper. We cut the filter paper of equal size of this Buchner funnel diameter, and we place here. There are pores here. What happens? This is being opened through a cork into a separating funnel. Then this separating funnel stopper we get stopped. And here there is a lid which is attached to a vacuum pump. we add vacuum pump, it sucks air from here. So it apply force here. So solvent from here, because here their pressure is low, here pressure is high. So what happens? The solvent instantly, very rapidly moves down. So filtrate is collected here and insoluble material is filtered over here. So the process gets quick one. This is called vacuum filtration. All right. So vacuum filtration is a rapid method. If the filtration is taking place very slowly, because one, maybe our solvent has a high viscosity. This may be the reason. Second, the filter paper pore size is very small, through which solvent is not easily getting through. So that's why what we do is we use Buchner funnel under suction. This is called filtration under suction or vacuum filtration. This is also called. So this is, we can get that separate. This is one way of purifying our compound. Is it clear to everybody?
Yes, sir.
Right. So second procedure of this one, purification of the product, is crystallization. Right. Today and previous lecture we are focusing on, in previous lecture I have highlighted 7 different protocols. 6 you have come across. Sixth one is the isolation of product, right? Mean to purify this. For purification methods are many. Filtration is one of the method of purification. If it doesn't apply, crystallization is the procedure. If it doesn't apply, solvent extraction may be the one, chromatography may be the one, etc. So once you get it purified, the last step is characterization. Mean identification of the product, either this is the same product we are expecting or not. So this is done by spectroscopic method. So this course, spectroscopic method, which is devised for you, is basically for the last step, to characterize a compound. Either it is the same product form which we are expecting. So different spectroscopic methods are being applied for that. This is the 7 steps that you are going to take while you are doing completing a chemical reaction. 7 steps are involved. The first 2 doesn't involve a laboratory. That involves basically only and only your uh, involvement in a piece of paper you need on the table. Is you can get this through. So we are focusing on the 6th step, the purification techniques. Or how we can purify your final product. One you have seen is the filtration. Second protocol is distillation. Distillation is only applicable to the system when you are having your compound is liquid. Let's say your reactant and products are liquid. So you have reacted your reactant with reagent, right? So in the end, final product is formed. Let's say the boiling point of reactant is higher and boiling point of your product is low. For example, you have acetic acid. You are reacting acetic acid with, uh, let's say, ethanol. All right. So when ethanol and acetic acid are reacting, what they form? Ethyl acetate. Ethyl acetate is a solvent. So it is an ester. Esters normally have lower boiling point. So when we are distilling, so we are using limiting reactant is ethanol. We are using acetic acid in excess. We can't do the vice versa. There is a logic. Let's say you have 2 reactant. One reactant is acetic acid, other is ethanol. We are taking acetic acid or commercial grade vinegar in high concentration as compared with the our reactant, mean ethanol. Ethanol is in small concentration. So if ethanol is in small concentration, it is more advantageable to us because it is acting as a limiting reagent. I hope all of you are familiar with limiting reactant. So So it is lower in concentration. Unreacted acetic acid shall be there. So all ethanol shall be converting into product. No ethanol is there. Why? Because when ethyl acetate boiling point is 70 something and ethanol boiling point is 76, they have very close boiling point. Acetic acid has a very high boiling point. So this is the reason we take ethanol as a limiting reactant, so that all of them should be converted into ethyl acetate. Now, when we are going to distill off, we have two products, we have two entities present. One is unreacted reactant, which is acetic acid in high concentration. Second is ethyl acetate. Now we can distill the reaction mixture. So because the boiling point of ethyl acetate is low, it shall come first. Now our product is being purifying. Normally these type of distillation procedures are being done when you are having your products liquid. Esters are mostly liquid. So whenever we are doing such reaction, we are synthesizing an ester. We can do the distillation protocol. So distillation, alcohols are taken as a limiting reactant. Acid is taken as in higher concentration. All right, in bulk. So when reaction, we think all alcohol has been consumed, then we do the distillation. So ester comes first and the limiting react and the other reactant in excess remains there. Then again we add ethanol to this and again we distill it off. This is in succession we do this on commercial scale. So commercial scale purification is done with such procedures. All right, is it clear? So distillation is one of the procedure for purification. All right, but this only applies when your final product is a liquid. If your final product is a liquid, we can apply, or your reactants are also liquid, so we can apply this distillation protocol. But you are familiar with only one kind of distillation, but there is different distillations going on. One distillation what we are performing is, one kind of distillation is which we call vacuum distillation. Let's say the boiling point of product we are going to distill off is very high. This is, let's say, 150 or 200 degrees Celsius. So we need to heat it to large extent. We want to avoid this because too much heating is required. A lot of energy is wasted. What we do is, when we are doing, we have the condenser next to condenser, after condenser, we add a vacuum. So because boiling point is dependent upon the vapor pressure. हाँ जी, हाँ भी है टाइम कितना, मैं आ जाऊँ तो उसके बाद आज मैं जरा होल्ड कर लेता हूँ. Just get a hold on. So we are having 6 minutes in this session. Just Hold on. Right. So we are having just around 3 minutes remaining. Is everybody listening me?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
There was an interruption here. So anyhow, we shall
Yes,
log in
sir.
again. We shall have 15-20 minutes more session, but I am just going to continue my previous talk about distillation. So one method of distillation is vacuum distillation. This is slightly different from conventional distillation. What is the difference? Look at the theory. Boiling point is dependent on what is boiling point? Boiling point is the temperature at which the vapor pressure of a liquid becomes equal to its atmospheric pressure. Let's say we are doing distillation at sea level. At sea level, external pressure is 760 millimeter of mercury. If we are doing the same distillation in Murray Hills, so there atmospheric pressure is less than 760, maybe this is 720, 710 millimeter of mercury. So here pressure is decreased, external pressure is decreased. Now it shall be converting into, it shall consume less time for distillation. So this is the principle we have devised. If we calculate or if we decrease the external pressure, then the vapor pressure of liquid shall become more easily equal to the atmospheric pressure, or it shall become earlier. So the advantage of this is when our liquid or our product which is existing in liquid state, if it is high in boiling point, then we can reduce the external atmospheric pressure. This is done with the help of a vacuum, a vacuum pump. Vacuum pump sucks the air, external pressure becomes low, so boiling takes place. And let's say if it is 200 boiling point, if we apply domestic pump, then it may distill this liquid off at below 100 degrees Celsius. So we shall need less heating. This is the advantage. So we have less than 1 minute remaining. We